FreshBaked, this is a construction update. I know you're seeing me here at the desk, but that's where we'll be doing our construction update from this week because I didn't have the opportunity to do it on location at Disneyland. I was having a great time with my wife and kid, and I didn't want to do it then. But I did get some footage. And we've got lots of things to talk about for construction. Very interesting conversations to have. So let's get started. We're going to get started right now with the Matterhorn. Last week we talked about the rumors that the Matterhorn was currently closed due to an ongoing issue with the decay of the Matterhorn's interiors. She's old and getting older. And I've heard from a few folks that that is the case, that there is decay happening with some of the interiors of the attraction. I mean, we knew about this a year or more than a year ago, 2 years ago, however long it was, when the Matterhorn, the last time the Matterhorn went down, it was because those pieces had fallen and they were trying to repair, but it's extensive. The repairs needed are extensive. It wasn't just that isolated situation. Now, it's my understanding that they're going to be refurbishing the old parts, the old supports, et cetera, the decaying supports in stages. So they're doing some now, and then they'll put the ride back up again, and it'll operate for a few months. This is my guess, by the way. It'll operate for a few months. They'll take it back down again, do a few more of the supports, and then bring it back up again. And this is going to be an ongoing situation while they, upgrade the interiors. In addition, they are also replacing, updating some of the track ties, the ride vehicle track ties, similar to what they did for Big Thunder. If you recall, a while back, there was the whole Big Thunder thing. Ostensibly, it was to add that new scene with the explosions in the tunnel, but it was also to replace the tracks to make it a smoother ride. So hopefully that results in a less turbulent ride experience, because that's one of the things that people talk about with Matterhorn is how rough it is. The Big Thunder ride was much smoother after they did the update, even though the Big Thunder tracks weren't as bad as the Matterhorn's tracks were to begin with. Now, one word of caution here with respect to that is that when the Big Thunder went down, it went down for, I want to say, I think it was almost a year, wasn't it? Because they were supposed to be down for like, I don't know, 6 months or whatever, but they kept extending it. It was taking forever. It took much longer, twice as long, I think, than they were expecting it to. But they were also replacing the entire track. I don't know if that's the case. That isn't the case here with the Matterhorn. So hopefully it won't be a year. So that's the bad news. The good news is that they are not, they are not going to have to tear down the entire mountain and rebuild it again. That was speculation. That was something they had to do because it might have been prohibitive to do it in stages or not even possible at all. But I'm understanding that they're not going to tear the whole thing down and rebuild it again. In fact, what I'm hearing is that they can't. Even if they wanted to, they couldn't take down the Matterhorn and rebuild it again. And that's due to current building codes. Building codes today would require them to build it in such a way that the footprint, the base of the attraction would be much larger than it is today. It would extend into Alice in Wonderland next door, across the street. Or if you were to go the other way, perhaps maybe, I don't know, into the Nemo Lagoon or something like that. So it's either they repair it from the inside or nothing. That's like a lot of things at Disneyland. Some of these attractions that were built in the 50s and the 60s, man, it makes me wonder how those attractions are going to survive. And then going forward after that, because of the evolving building codes, you can't build the Matterhorn today the way they did. You've got other attractions, Mr. Toads. I know that's not, you couldn't build Toads today as small as it did, which is why they build rides like Rise of the Resistance or even Little Mermaid is so big because of this. I worry about Mr. Toads. I worry about the monorail. I worry about Star Tours. I mean, I'm not a fan of the ride, but I know a lot of people are, and I'm worried for those people who like Star Tours. That's an attraction that they can't build again today, at least not the way that they did. We've talked about this in the past for a variety of reasons, but it's being held together by duct tape right now, and I'm not even sure that you could replace the parts today that were needed in order to maintain that attraction. That it's just not, they don't do it that way anymore. It's cost prohibitive. So that's something that we're going to be paying attention to going forward. Matterhorn, man, that's going to be a huge tell. And at the risk of bringing everybody down because of that depressing conversation, let's move on with our update. Okay, let's go to New Orleans Square. This is fascinating and almost to the point where I think I would normally have led off with this if it hadn't been for the Matterhorn. What's going on in New Orleans Square? Le Baton Rouge, a gift shop on Royal Street, was not among the shops that reopened with the park because something new is cooking. As in food? Is Le Baton Rouge being converted to a dining location? Some would immediately assume that's a Tiana-related thing, because we're talking about, Splash Mountain getting a refurb to Princess and the Frog, and it makes sense. But I don't know, it's going to be a little while before Splash Mountain is converted. I'm talking years. It could be 2-3 years before we see the Princess and the Frog reskin. And it's not just that sign, there's more. Indeed, Gumbo appears to be in the future for this location. How about, you had my curiosity before, now you have my attention. What is this? What does this mean? I looked this up on the Googles, and there were no results to be found. I thought it might be a song lyric, maybe from Princess and the Frog, but nothing. Anybody have any idea, has anybody heard this before or have any reference for that particular phrase? And I ask that because if there's one thing I know about Disney is that, or modern Disney anyway, is they don't do anything. They don't do anything without an IP influence. And obviously, there's the Tiana thing, which that's why I'm thinking maybe it was a song lyric from Princess and the Frog, but I can't find anything. And would they just do this without an IP influence? No, of course not. So help me out, guys. What can you make of this signage out in front of or in the windows of Le Baton Rouge? And here's another curiosity. Why haven't we heard anything about this from Disney? Again, if we know anything about Disney, it's that they don't do anything. They will tease us years in advance. We've already got, Splash Mountain, the reskin, all they had was a piece of concept art. They barely even had an idea, but they let us know about it. They let us know it's happening. It is not like them to just put a sign in a window and not tell us anything else. That's a weird way for them to tease, could be a major update to New Orleans Square. Major. Now they did things like that in the past with these sort of cryptic signage in the windows, but today everything is about hype. Everything is about building anticipation, and this is the kind of thing that they would be talking about on the Disney Parks blog. I'm really curious. I really am curious if there's any insiders out there who know what's going on in Le Baton Rouge and New Orleans Square. Like I said, at me. Direct message me on Twitter. FreshBaked Disney, that's fresh with no E, or send me an email, david@freshbakedisney.com. Let me know what they're doing in New Orleans Square. I would like to know. We'll stay in Fantasyland and check out Storybook Land. The canal boats, they're still closed. But it does look like the repairs being made to the Aladdin section of the ride, the ones right there next to Casey Jr., are completed. The scaffolding around the trellises have been removed, and the lights appear to be functioning when I checked on them Saturday. But no word yet on when Storybook Land might reopen, but I don't think it's going to be very long. We'll go to Toontown next, where we can confirm that the big giant building is still there, and so too are the construction walls around the Gag Factory. And since last week, they've added this Runaway Railway concept art image to the walls. This suggests to me that what's being done there is for Runaway Railway, because that's standard operating procedure. When you're working on a section and you want to tell people, why are we working on this? Well, here's why. Here's some concept art. This is what's coming. So I have a feeling that we're going to see those walls stay up for the duration or until whatever work that they're done, doing towards Runaway Railway, I guess is what I'm saying. Could be 2023 is the expectation for Runaway Railway right now. Let's go to Town Square next, where we're going to talk about the Disneyland Railroad. We mentioned in a previous video that the train runs only to about 2:30 or 3 o'clock, and this continues to be the case as of Saturday. Conventional wisdom is that this is a staffing issue with no real idea when they might start running on a more full-time basis. I guess it depends on when they can get more trained staff. I mentioned it again today to remind folks that if you want to get your train ride in, I suggest possibly doing that as early as possible, first thing in the morning or something like that. They don't put a lot of people on the train. They don't run it anywhere near full capacity. It's not even near 25% capacity even. They run a very thin train right now, one group basically per train car, or like every third row. So not only is they're not running the full complement of trains, they're not running them at even 25% capacity, and they're only running them until 2:30, 3 o'clock. Bottom line, get there when you can. Next stop is Adventureland, where we showed you last week some very thick scrim in between Tropical Hideaway and the Jungle Cruise. You can't see through it, but one adventurous street team member looked over it from the extended Indiana Jones queue, which is the top floor of Jungle Cruise. We're not able to see around the corner from this angle, but you can see that the river's been drained, and there's an array of equipment set up just around the corner from the Trader Sam's location. So, it does look like they're actively working on this area. And thank you very much to Sergio for sending in that shot. We appreciate it, guys. If on your visit you happen to catch something like this, grab a photo, a repair thing, an operational situation. Like today we had, street team guys sending us stuff from Indiana Jones Adventure. Tweet us at FreshBaked Disney, that's Fresh with no E. You can DM me or tweet us directly or send me an email to david@freshbakedisney.com. Join the FreshBaked street team. We can use you because we can't be there every week to do all this stuff. Just like, I'm at my desk today. Let's go next to Frontierland, where something that I had completely forgotten about. They were building a new entrance to Frontierland while the parks were closed. They were remodeling a lot of that area, actually. So I took the camera there this past weekend to do a little comparison, and looks the same. Looks pretty much exactly the same. I can't find any differences between the two, between this photo taken in, 2018, and the photo taken on Saturday. And if you ask me, that's the best kind of update. I like the updates where, they make things new and fresh without actually changing anything major or drastically. Okay, now we're gonna finally close with some operational observations. We mentioned last week when we were at Cocina Cucamonga that it was mobile order or nothing. You either were doing mobile order or you didn't do anything at all. That is not the case. I've been corrected and I tested this myself. They are still doing some standby. Some locations do have standby. The Plaza Inn, you can do mobile order or standby, either one. There's a whole queue set up for that and everything. Or a separate queue, I should say. Limited menu though, limited menu, but luckily the fried chicken's still in there. The best fried chicken I've ever had anywhere. Meanwhile, over at French Market, you can't go in. You could go into Plaza, but you can't go into French Market. It's interesting. You mobile order and then you walk up there to this, they fabricated a stand there where you can go to the window and they just hand you a bag of French Market food. Not the most awesome experience in the world, but I guess, it's a small price to pay for going to Disneyland these days. Now, being that mobile order still is getting a large part of the priority here, they're really pushing it hard, we are going to have to adjust our expectations on how we get food at the parks, and there will be some adjustments as to how we, like Bengal barbecue, okay? Liz and I went to Bengal barbecue, and it was a very confusing experience to somebody who's, just kind of casually trying to get food. And it was even for me, I had to kind of figure out a little bit, but you get to Bengal barbecue, you place your mobile order, you hit the button, prepare my food, they tell you it's ready, you get the blue screen of readiness. You walk up to a Bengal barbecue and there's gonna be a cast member out there directing traffic. That alone tells you right there that they've got a problem because it requires multiple cast members out there telling people where just to stand to get your food. Okay, so the cast member, make sure that you're ready to get your food. Then he sends you into a queue over here on the side, which is a little bit interesting. It took me a minute to figure it out because it's kind of windy. You get in that queue and you wait for another cast member to tell you, you get a lane assignment. They tell you which lane to go pick it up. 1, 2, 3, or 4, I think it was. You get in that lane, walk up, show them you're ready, and they give you your food. It's strange, and it takes some getting used to. It's going to be especially difficult for some folks who don't go very often and who don't have a chance to get accustomed to these kinds of changes. It's going to be a bit of a shock. So be prepared for situations like that for Bengal barbecue or, like French Market, that it's just going to be different than what you're expecting. If you're concerned, if you're a little bit confused, just ask a cast member. They're very, very kind. They're very, patient with everybody, and they will try to help you out as much as possible. The good news is that in most cases, it's not worse in terms of taking longer, let's say. It doesn't take longer to get your food this way. It's just different. It's just different, and it takes some getting used to, and it's temporary. They're going to want to push mobile order forever, but once the COVID restrictions are lifted again, like we talked about with the attractions and the virtual queues, that kind of thing, they'll, it's all about social distancing. That's the problem, is that it's forcing them to re-examine how they do things. So just be warned. Take the Bengal barbecue example and the French Market and the Plaza as signs of what you may expect to find when you get food at Disneyland. Meanwhile, there's still a challenge finding a place to sit down and eat, and this again is social distancing. The tables are spread out, some of them are just closed entirely. They put a little sign out there, you can't sit here. So it's hard to find tables. So Disney has been adding tables everywhere that they could. On the rivers of America, just on the walkways. They're adding tables wherever they can, and now they're also adding these tall iron standing tables where you can put your food down and you can rest your food on it. You don't have to put it on top of a trash can, but you can't sit. You have to stand. This is what Liz and I had to do when we got our Bengal barbecue. And it's okay. It's not so bad. You just have to be a little bit patient again. And again, the bottom line is the food is still really good. You know, once we started eating our Bengal barbecue in our French market, we were like, this is great. I'm fine. I'm good. No worries. Whatever. This is, you know what? Yeah, I've eaten on top of trash cans before. I didn't complain then 2 years ago, you know, when I was doing that, you know, trying to just find a place to eat my food, because tables were a hard thing to find before. They are again today. Setting expectations. That's what we're here for, FreshBaked. Setting expectations. And that goes for attractions as well. And I bring this up because there are some attractions, everything's pretty much a walk-on, mostly. It's very easy to get on attractions these days. There are a few that are difficult. Indiana Jones, Haunted Mansion, Pirates, Snow White, maybe Peter Pan. But I want to talk about those for a second because it looks bad. It looks bad. This was Snow White. I forget, this was like at 5 o'clock or so, maybe 6 o'clock. The line was huge, but an hour later it was gone. So there are rush periods. But even then, that was only, what, 30, 40 minutes when the line was out there. This, check this out. This is the back of Peter Pan. Yes, the back of the Peter Pan attraction was stretched out all the way through Snow White's grotto and approaching Town Square. Looks really, really bad, I'm sure. As a matter of fact, a guest was, when I was shooting this video, a guest was like, you're serious? This is the back of Peter Pan. Like, he couldn't believe it. And he said, are you serious that it's 20 minutes? Yes, that line at that point is 20 minutes. And the reason is because they're not, well, social distancing, obviously, 6 feet, but they're also not loading any guests, or queuing any guests, I should say, inside a building. So that area in there, you know, the really compact space where they squeeze in a ton of people, all of that is empty. So now you have to spread all those folks out 6 feet. Of course it's going to go out into Snow White's grotto and out into Town Square. That line was 20 minutes. It was 20 minutes. And I'm going to test that on my next visit on the 22nd. But I've said this before, if you see a long line, don't worry about it. There's not a single line at Disneyland or DCA that I'm afraid of. Not a single one. Well, maybe Soarin'. Maybe Soarin' at DCA would be a drag because there's a lot of waiting, because they might be, I think they might be running just one screen. But that's, you know, an anomaly. There's nothing at Disneyland, I'll say this, there's no line at Disneyland that I'm afraid of getting in. Even if it looks bad, it's not, I promise you that. Find a ride you like, get in the queue, enjoy yourself at Disneyland. Enjoy yourself, make that the priority. Don't trip out on that kind of stuff. And that wraps up this week's Disneyland construction and operations update. I hope you don't mind that we did it from the desk this week, but it was still fun just the same. Let us know if you have any questions or observations about what you saw today in the comments below. We'll try to answer those questions for you. Let us know if you find any issues. Join the FreshBaked Street Team. Let us know if you see anything. Take a picture, take a video, write us a note. FreshBaked Disney, that's Fresh with no E on Twitter. Email me at david@freshbakedisney.com. Otherwise, thanks again for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. And FreshBaked.